Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bob Waldron. In this video we're going to be having an in-box review of Airfix's Supermarine Swift FR.5, which is in 1/72 scale. Looks like a really cool kit. I'm kind of really sort of liking it actually. It's nice to sort of see all these sort of British sort of jets coming out. I mean, they've brought out the Phantom as well. All sorts of really cool stuff. Now I'm just going to dive right into this one. Should be fairly quick. We've got Cartographic Decals also. It costs around about £19, which is not a bad price for a jet. Starting off, we've got some instructions here. Nice little bit of a description just to give you a bit of detail about the actual aircraft itself. We've got usual, start off with the cockpit. Seems quite nice, simple and easy. We've got a bunch of stuff that needs to be put on here, like air intakes and engine exhaust and stuff. Quite a bit of sort of work before you bring those two fuselage together. I do believe you do need to put a weight in the front of this. Yeah, just here. It says to put 2 grams of weight just in the nose section, so that's basically saying be careful that you don't have a tail sitter. So I'd probably put a little bit more than 2 grams, as much as you can get in the front really. And then those two halves come together, and then we have this whole sort of the bottom wing section is one big hole that sort of sits down, so you're probably most likely going to have a bit of a sort of, not exactly a fit issue, but like a bit of gappage there, and then just there also. You normally do with those kind of fits. Then you do have sort of like tail and stuff. You can have sort of rotate it in a different position, shall we say. We've got flaps and air brakes and stuff. We can have them open or closed or in different sort of positions, so it's nicely posable, shall we say. You can have the whole, you know, on the ground, in-flight display, all those cool sort of things. Then we have 2 sets of markings that you can do with this. We've got the whole 2-tone camo pattern at the top, and I do believe it's like a, what's that, a PRU blue on one of them, and then we've got like a is it an aluminium finish on the underside. Looks like it's an aluminium finish on the underside. Again, same sort of 2-tone camo on top. We also do get some stencil call outs for all your little stencils on this, not a massive amount. As I say, we've got Cartographic Decals with this, which is rather cool. So looking at these Cartographic Decals, we have instrument display panel, that's in decal form. We've got all these little sort of stencils on here. The writing is actually, you know, readable as well, considering how tiny it is. And then we've got all our little different markings on here, which, you know, all the colours look really nice and crisp. It's sort of like a matte finish, and everything's in registry, and they should go on rather nicely with micro salt and set. We then get to the plastic, which we have one bag with, what is this, about 4 grey sprues, and then we've got some clear parts just here. So let's have a look at the kit. Now this is 1/72 scale, not a massive sort of jet, but what we have is, you can hopefully see, we've got the usual typical Airfix decals. Let's maybe change the lighting a bit, maybe see if that helps. Hopefully you can just see the recessed panel lines on here. Not seeing any recessed rivets. I am also seeing that just here what we have is the recessed panel line seems to really sort of go shallow and not so crisp, and is going to need a bit of a rescribing just in that area. Moving around, not so bad. Maybe here it gets a bit sort of light on the underside as well. Maybe a bit of a rescribe there. We've got some of our wheels, we've got some lovely detail going on inside them. A little bit of flash also, but not a massive big deal. We've got the other half of our fuselage section. Again, we've got that same bit of a where the recessed panel lines go a bit you know, they're just kind of, it almost seems as though it's slightly sort of warped out a little bit, sort of, you know, they just fade really kind of not so well, even a little bit here and there. No major thing, but we do have some lovely detail inside our wheel wells just here. Absolute load of detail actually, which is quite surprising. Hopefully I'm sort of liking that. There are ejector pin marks, but I mean, what's this? We've got ejector pin marks on here, but there's no real detail on the back of these wheel well doors, so they will be easy to get rid of. We've then got some of our top wing section. Again, you can probably just make out that recessed panel line detail. It is probably a little bit out of scale as always with Airfix, but you know, they're still really nice kits. We've got some ejector seat detail here with all sorts of harnesses and stuff, so there's quite a fair bit of detail going on there. We've got our air intakes here, which do look like we've got ejector pin marks inside here, which are gonna maybe take a bit to get rid of them, but still, and then there's a bit of detail just here for, I do believe that's the air brakes. No ejector pin marks there. Then we've got the underside of our wing section and bottom of the fuselage. Loads of sort of detail going on there, which should look rather nice indeed. We've got our engine exhaust at the back here, which again, we do have ejector pin marks inside there, but I don't think we're really going to see inside there that massively. And I think this looks like our instrument display panels here, where we sort of, we're probably going to curve in that decal just there. We have some landing gear here, you know, pretty good detail for 1/72 scale. Ejector pin marks, not seeing any on there, which is good. Again, we've got some wheel well doors which do have ejector pin marks in there. Fair few ejector pin marks, which is a little bit of a shame, but I don't think they're going to be that hard to get rid of. We then have our clear canopy parts. Here's our main bit. I am looking at this, and that is looking pretty nice and crisp, and no real sort of issues with that piece. Got our front part as well, and there's no issues with that, which is rather good, because Airfix can have that tendency to have like a cobweb effect, which is not good, and these don't have it. So all in all, I mean, again, lovely decals from Airfix. The canopy's nice as well, which is good, because that can sometimes get that wrong. Instructions look like you're going to get through it quite easily. The plastic, I mean, it is typical Airfix surface detail. There is a few ejector pin marks in there, but apart from that, it looks like it's going to build into a nice, lovely little kit, which, you know, if you like those sort of Cold War type aircrafts and everything, this should be right up your street. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. So until next time, my name is Bo Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I'll catch you next time.